You ever see a war hero get arrested on live TV at her own son's funeral? That was the morning America's mask slipped right off. People talk about dignity, sacrifice, honor. Yeah, I saw all that crushed beneath the heel of a system that had rather bury the truth than face it. That day at Jefferson Memorial Cemetery, every eye was watching General Raven Whitmore, the most decorated black woman in the history of our military, as she reached out to accept her son's flag, trembling but proud, every inch of her pressed uniform screaming tradition and pain. But as the flag passed into her hands, a cold ripple cut through the crowd. I remember the crunch of Gravel Tanner Grayson, a scrawny white kid, courtroom tag still clipped to his blazer, stormed forward, pistol in hand, yelling, "She's a threat. She doesn't belong here." Cameras flashed, officers froze, and not one soul moved to stop him. You know what I mean? Like the world hit pause, except for the gun at her head and the grief tearing through her chest. Raven never flinched, not even with 20 cops standing there like statues, permission written all over their silence. She just looked him in the eye, that look soldiers get when they know death's in the room. "Not today," she whispered. And thin boom, a shot ripped the air. Chaos exploded. But it wasn't Tanner who fired. It was Officer Wilson, a cop in Chief Foster's squad, sending a bullet skyward, shouting, "She's got a gun." The story flipped in a heartbeat. In seconds, Raven was face down in the dirt beside her son's casket, wrists wrenched behind her back, her son's flag trampled. That's how America repaid 30 years of service. A mother dragged away on live TV, accused of violence she never committed. Her humiliation, her pain, beamed into every home in the country. They called it law and order. I call a message. No matter your stars, you're black first. And as that cruiser door slammed behind her, you could see something shift in her eyes, resolve hardening, all that grief turning to fire. They'd started a war, and this time, they picked the wrong general. Let me back up a sec. 3 days earlier, Raven landed in Houston, still in shock, her uniform starched, medals gleaming. She wasn't just there to bury her only son, Captain Xavier Monroe. She was there to bury her faith in a country he died believing in. At the airport, Officer Matz stopped her for a random screening. Didn't care for her ID, mocked her rank, dragged her through 2 hours of humiliation, making her spell Pentagon like it was a trick. She'd faced enemy fire and foreign generals, but nothing prepared her for the smallness of American racism in a fluorescent-lit terminal. Only her daughter, Amra, fierce civil rights attorney, pulled her out of it. But even then, Matz called someone, whispering, "Target confirmed. The Brotherhood appreciates your loyalty." That was the first whiff of something bigger, a web of conspiracy reaching deeper than Raven could have guessed. At home, Raven's father handed her an envelope, Xavier's final message, a thumb drive stuffed with documents, videos, and a chilling thread. A network called the Courtroom Brotherhood, judges, cops, prosecutors all conspiring to keep black voices from rising. There was even proof Xavier had been sent to die on a false deployment, orchestrated by the very men who should have protected him. Her son's death wasn't an accident. It was an execution. And as if that wasn't enough, Officer Chun, Xavier's friend, showed up battered and bruised. "They got to me," he rasped. "But I got the rest of it, names, badge numbers, the whole rotten tree." Raven clutched the new drive, knowing the only thing standing between her and erasure was the truth Xavier risked his life to gather. But justice in America? It doesn't come quietly. In the courtroom, days before the funeral, Tanner Grayson faced a hate crime charge for beating a black juror, OTC cadet, half to death. Judge Whitaker, pillar of the Brotherhood, looked right past the victim's mother, called it boys being boys, and sent Tanner home with a slap on the wrist. That same boy would stand at Raven's son's funeral, weaponized by the system as a symbol of white innocence, untouchable, prepped for spectacle. Now, imagine the day of the funeral. The air was thick with menace, not mourning. Uniformed officers, handpicked by Chief Foster, formed a wall. Black veterans were delayed at the gate. White mourners breezed in. In the middle of it all, Tanner waited, smug, ready. The setup was perfect. Raven's eulogy was the trigger. As she spoke, her voice steady, the pain crackling beneath every word she named what no one else dared. My son tried to expose a conspiracy. For that, they sent him to die. Murmurs, shifting feet, officers moving in closer. Then Tanner lurched forward, reaching beneath his blazer. Amara yelled. Officers rushed Raven, not the boy. A shot fired, a lie shouted, "She's armed," and chaos broke loose. Phones streamed the scene to the world. Raven, face in the dirt, cuffed and broken, her son's flag lost. The story twisted Livia Hero recast as a criminal. In jail, Raven was processed like any angry black woman. Her medals now evidence of delusion. They escalated charges, isolated her, tried to erase her voice. But the system's cruelty only hardened her strategy. Even in general population, an unlikely alliance of fellow veterans shielded her sisterhood in orange jumpsuits, proof that honor can't be stripped by a jumpsuit or a guard sneer. Meanwhile, Amara, with Agent Carter from DOJ, mobilized outside the file. Xavier left behind now their blueprint. Finally, in a climactic courtroom showdown, Carter played the secret recording. Chief Foster and Judge Whitaker plotting Xavier's death, protecting Tanner, burying black ambition under a mountain of white lies. The judge was led away in cuffs, the Brotherhood's shield crumbling on live TV. The empire cracked not with a bang, but wave after wave of confessions, arrests, headlines. Justice, long denied, forced its way through. But with every exposed crime, the machine that had once erased Raven now tried to erase her son's legacy, leaking stories, doctoring files, calling her unstable. You know how it goes. Smear the truth, blame the victim, paint the whistleblower as crazy. But Raven didn't fold. Her fire was catching. Veterans and families rallied behind her. Other whistleblowers came forward, and the Xavier Monroe Justice Initiative rose name for the son they couldn't silence. And so, in the end, the place they tried to break, her Jefferson Memorial, became Monroe Field of Honor. Raven, now a 4-star general, stood in her flawless uniform, laying her son's flag on a new monument, surrounded by families once forced into silence. A second casket lay open, filled with medals, letters, stories every service member erased by quiet violence, now named and honored. She faced the crowd, her voice weathered but unbroken. I buried my son twice. But he didn't die in vain. He exposed a system, and now it's falling. Thunderous applause. Not for victory, but for reckoning. As the wind whispered through the cemetery, Raven knelt by her son's grave, the world watching, no longer turning away. "We finished it, Xavier," she murmured. "You lit the fuse, I carried the fire." Her grief transformed, not erased, but crowned in truth. And as the crowd dispersed, a question hung in the air, lingering like the last note of a battle hymn. Justice finally cracks open the walls. Do we have the courage to rebuild something better? Or do we turn away until the next funeral? Let me know what you think in the comments. Whose side are you on? And what does justice even mean in a country like this? If you felt the power of this story, like, share, and subscribe, because voices like Raven's and stories like Xavier's are how we move from silence to change. See you in the next one.